But let's start with the real deal. Kofi, I'll start with you. This Nigerian Ghana, feud that started off early this week, and I remember the first comments that we had from the market in Suame, from the Nigerian side. And I want to play some of the insets just to set us off. The concerns that came there from the Nigerian community was that when the individuals came to ransack their shops, they said they should leave because they were kidnappers. And then we know then it evolved into the fundamental concern about the lack of or our willingness to enforce the GIPC Act, which restricts retail trade exclusively to Ghanaians. It's become a big deal because of the actions we've seen in the markets, but also the position taken by GUTA and ultimatums flying all over the place. How should the state deal with this? But watch how this played out this week and the sentiments that were expressed about this.
As a result of the above, we, the Abosokai Spare Parts Dealers Association, we want to, one, affirm our support to our brothers and sisters in Kumasi who have taken it upon themselves to defend the cause of freedom and enforce the rights in their business. We want also to register our displeasure towards that shameful speech by the so-called Nigerian professor, which has gone viral on social media. We also want to register our displeasure to the Nigerian High Commissioner for attacking our media for doing their rightful job. Inform government to act within a matter of 2 weeks, or the Abosokai Spare Parts Dealers Association will take a destiny into our own hands to register our displeasure with the dormant approach taken by government toward this canker in our society. We want to put an emphasis on this. It is on record that the Ministry of Trade and Industry has consistently promised to crack the whip by setting up a task force to seize foreigners from retail trading. But this task force has not been able to live up to expectation.
We also have ECOWAS treaty that gives us the same level of doing business. Like Ghanaians can go to Nigeria and also trade or do business like Nigerians. And Nigerians can also come to Ghana and do that. If you understand that,
but it's subject to the local laws also.
Yeah, what is local law? A local law is a law that governs people. The same law is the same law that you used to go and sign that agreement. The truth of the matter is that if Ghana is not a sovereign nation, they cannot be a member of ECOWAS anywhere. So when you have signed into such a law, you have that obligation or responsibility to play. And that is what is going on. Nigerians have right, just like Ghanaians, to trade in Ghana. That is my point. And the fact that GUTA is becoming, excuse my word, I don't know what to qualify them with, but they are giving Nigerians problem. I think government should rise at this point and put a lasting stop to it. That's why we are here, to call on government. Today we have a threat from Abosokai that is giving government two weeks to do what? If not, to enforce the laws. Okay, when have GUTA become a law enforcement agency in Ghana? Are they the law enforcement agency?
Point, whoever does anything untoward, they would give the person up, or they would allow security agencies to do their work. They wouldn't interfere whatsoever. So if we hear from them and tomorrow we wake up early morning and again we find these people on the streets clad in red bands and wearing boots and those things, we'll meet them. We have our men standing by at there. We have Mufti, we have the those in civil dress, that is, we call them CID, the detectives. They are around the area where the trouble is. And there are the standby men, we call them the rovers, the troopers. They are still on standby at the divisional headquarters. And we have asked for the military assistance, and they are going to do that.
particularly you, the youth, the youth and the media, that we should all be measured in terms of our pronouncements. Any arrest which has been effected by the police, we will urge the police, and knowing the Ghanaian police, they are going to do their work dispassionately. So let's respect the police. Let's not be seen to be prejudging the case that is being reported in the media. We have sent a word to the Nigerian High Commissioner to Ghana. We will be meeting him. We think that there is no cause of worry, but generally we have to appeal to our own, that we don't want to drag any bad relationship between the two countries, and we have no cause to be worried. We think that crime should be treated as crime.
Are getting increasingly concerned about the tone and the reportage and what is going on social media. If care is not taken, this is what leads to triggers that will cause what we all do not want to see. We do not want Ghana-Nigeria relations to be jeopardized. We don't want the start of any xenophobic attacks, no matter where they may start from, whether in Ghana or Nigeria. There is so much that we both have to lose.
So those are voices this week just illustrating the problem that we have on our hands with the managing this very sensitive matter, Nigeria and Ghana, and whether they have the right to legally trade in retail locally or not. Kofi, I say it's sensitive and complex because this started this week. The first time I heard this was when I heard this gentleman called Obiara. He is a Nigerian Association of Local Traders leader in Suame, who says when they came to ransack the businesses, the guys told them that they should leave because they're kidnappers. And I'm raising that to point to the complexity of this, that they are saying there's a simmering in there. There's a legal trade questions, but there's also the fear of xenophobia, which is also tainted with it. And that's what makes this very toxic, doesn't it?
It is volatile. It's a very dangerous thing we are allowing to fester, and I think the earlier we nip it in the bud, the better. This is not the first time I heard about it. The first time I heard about this was in Buzia, Dr. Buzia's time. Ghana and Nigeria have been playing these dangerous games, and it's not helped any of us. All right? Now, what we need to understand is that what is at play is xenophobia. But the xenophobia...
You think that's what it is?
No, you see, xenophobia has many parts.
Okay.
It's driven by many things. There are people who believe other people are worse human beings. But this xenophobia, as with many types of xenophobia, that is the hatred or dislike of foreign people, is economic in nature.
Okay.
All right? Clearly, our people are not being able to compete with the Nigerians at that level, and it's creating problems. So when you say the person accuses the Nigerian of being a kidnapper, it's an excuse. What they want is what they've ultimately come to say. They don't want them in the market. And they've explained it in so many ways and saying that the Nigerians are basically outcompeted, them selling at lower prices and all those other things they've talked about. All of which can be analyzed at that level. But we err if we think this is all there is to it. Now, I've said that it's xenophobia, it's driven by economics, it's because of competition, and some people feel that the Nigerians are outcompeting us. But this is not a legal issue, even though law is at play. It is a political issue.
Explain.
I explain this way. The law is based in the ECOWAS Treaty, more or less, that people can go across and trade at a certain level, maybe not go to the retail level. But in Ghana, the nature of our law is like that all such international conventions must be ratified. They must be put into our local law before they become effective. If there's a conflict between that law and a local law, the local law takes precedence. So our GIPC law takes precedence. That, however, is a failure of our system, the executive and the parliament. Now, that failure is serious because, like I said, from Buzia's time, we've seen these problems come back. And by the way, every government has faced this problem. Every government, this thing erupts like every 4 years or so, and every government faces it. So how come we have not sorted out that issue? When the law is sorted out, however, that will not be the end of the story, because imagine you sort out the law and we adopt the ECOWAS treaty that says they can trade, but they can't go below a certain level. Many Ghanaians are fronting, everybody knows about that. So law per se will not solve the problem. The competition problem will be there, the xenophobia will still be there. If you ask me, I say it's political because what I think we should do, and it's not easy, but we should start it now because we've been seeing this since Buzia's time. Ghana and Nigeria can sign a bilateral treaty regarding trade and have what we call international trade reciprocity. What it says is that I will allow you to do everything that you allow me to do here. The reason is that there are many Ghanaians in Nigeria, there are many Nigerians in Ghana, and I don't see how we can decouple ourselves, from that kind of interaction. Ghana is closer to Nigeria than we are closer to Togo. Okay, so for me, what we need to do is for our politicians first to decide what they want to do with the law, and Parliament and the executive sort that out. But sorting it out, whichever way, as it is now, may not be the solution. The solution is political, politicians sitting down, and I propose reciprocity. Whatever Nigerians agree that Ghanaian traders can do in Ghana, let's reciprocate in Ghana. And whatever Ghanaians agree, Nigeria should reciprocate. Then we can move on in that sense. Because this thing, it only erupts as it has done in Buzia's time, as it did in the Agege return. 1 million people had to be sent back here. Now we are tinkering with the same kind of time bomb. It is not healthy for anybody.
James, when you were the Deputy Interior Minister, and he's made the point, it's true, all the governments have faced this. There have been times of eruption where GUTA would, agitate. A task force would be formed. I remember very well under your watch, John Mahama's watch, a task force was formed. They started, and then it tapers off. What were the approaches? Why did that fail? We need to understand, because the traders make that point consistently, that each time government had stepped in, each time they had agitated, government steps in a way with a task force, and then it dies. So why hasn't that worked? He says it's a political. Why hasn't that worked, at least with your experience?
Evans, the issues are very complex, and I would admit that there's been some inertia on the part of government with regards to the enforcement of the GIPC law. I mean, in the face of the ECOWAS protocols, you can understand why there is that inertia on government's part. So yes, at our time, this same issue erupted. We dealt with it. We had a series of meetings with GUTA. But you see, the point must be made very loud and clear that GUTA is not a law enforcement agency. So whenever I hear them hold press conferences and threaten that they will take their destiny into their own hands and stop the Nigerians, I think we should not tolerate that in our country. You see, when it comes to even the issue...
But where the legitimate agencies of state have failed to enforce a law that is there in black and white, what tends to happen anywhere in the world? People then tend to, vigilantes arise, people take matters into their own hands. That is GUTA's point. That our government, you admit by stating we failed, GUTA says, because you failed, we will enforce the law.
Evans, the ECOWAS protocol is law. It binds on us. Once we signed on to that protocol, we assumed certain obligations under international law, regardless of the fact that we never took steps to domesticate the protocol into our municipal laws.
Have we ratified it locally?
It hasn't been brought before Parliament for ratification.
So is it
but I'm saying that if you want to reduce the debate to the issue of our dualist status as a country, yes, it is not good law. But I'm saying that under international law, the very moment Ghana signed on to the ECOWAS treaty, we assumed certain international obligations, regardless of the fact that we haven't taken steps to domesticate those provisions of the ECOWAS treaty. So that explains why government finds it difficult to, as it were, enforce the GIPC law to its letter. But having said that, it's not as if government agencies have gone to sleep. Look, in times past, some task forces were put together They did some work. They went into the market, identified a number of shops which were supposedly owned by foreign businesses. They had to profile some of them and identify the shareholders and owners. That takes quite some time. So it's not exactly true that government agencies haven't done anything. I can give you some of the statistics. The GIPC has been working in conjunction with the Ghana Immigration Service. They identified quite a number of shops. But the question is, you know, you can't just round up somebody and say, don't participate in retail trade.
Why can't you?
Because when you're a foreigner. If you have the suspicion that the person is a foreigner, you must take steps to positively identify the person as such. So if it has to do with a company, you must do searches at the Registrar General's outfit. And I'm saying that when state agencies took it upon themselves to do the searches, the revelations were that most of the companies were Ghanaian-owned. But whether there is fronting or not is another matter that we have to contend with.
But these companies, are they companies? We are talking about retail trade.
Some of them are companies, yes.
Sole proprietorships.
Yes, some are sole proprietorships. Some are companies.
But majority of them, I doubt, will be companies that will go to
No.
Registrar General.
You'll be shocked.
In Suame.
You will be shocked.
Really?
You will be shocked. Even beyond that, some of the sole proprietorships,
I mean, the containers
have been registered in the names of Ghanaians. Okay. So there is fronting. And when you are confronted with an issue of that nature, how do you enforce the law with relative ease? If you don't take care, you're going to go after people whose status is sound in law. They haven't flouted any of our laws. So you have a challenge on your hand. Look, would you identify foreigners by accent? If that is the criteria for identification.
Or name.
You may be mistaken. Because for all you know, the person is a dual citizen. He's naturalized as a Ghanaian. And so law enforcement agencies must be diligent. And that is what has made the enforcement of this law very difficult. Look, at the moment, there's a joint parliamentary committee that is looking into this matter.
Including yours?
Including mine. A referral was made by the Right Honorable Speaker sometime in March. We've received a number of memoranda. I can count them, 1, 2, 3, over 10 of them. And all the state agencies involved have expressed frustration with regards to the implementation of the GIPC law.
What's their problem?
The problem is the issue of fronting, the issue of the ECOWAS protocol.
That's
because at the international level, that is a binding protocol. So do you want to pretend that Ghana has no obligations under the ECOWAS treaty? What is it that is accounting for our failure to domesticate the ECOWAS treaty? So the issue of politics comes to the fore. And you, my brother Bentel, made the point. Do you want to be seen to be antagonistic to GUTA and those in the retail trade business? On the other hand, what do you do with the treaties that you have signed on at the level of ECOWAS?
Your citizens first.
But Evans, yes, but we are looking beyond Ghana. We are talking about having for ourselves a common customs union, a monetary union. We're looking at a borderless ECOWAS sub-region. That is at the heart of the ECOWAS treaty's aims and objectives. So if that is the case, shouldn't we be treading cautiously? Now I ask myself the fundamental question. Has Nigeria got a legislation that is similar or analogous to the GIPC Act? The searches have been conducted, there's none. And so at the level of ECOWAS, when you begin to talk about reciprocity, you find that we as a country would be found wanting. It appears the GIPC Act clearly contradicts the letter and spirit of Article 3 of the revised treaty of the ECOWAS.
Let's take it and let's
so as a people, we should all be asking ourselves, why the inertia? Okay. He talked about failure on the part of Parliament and the executive. Yes, admittedly, there's some failure there. But we are confronted with an issue of law enforcement. And the state agencies responsible has expressed reasons why it is extremely difficult to enforce the law with the level of alacrity that is envisioned by GUTA. So let us address the issue. At the moment, the Parliamentary Joint Committee is looking into the matter. We're going to make recommendations.
Okay.
Some of the recommendations, I don't want to preempt outcomes, but as a member of that committee, I definitely I'm going to argue forcefully for the ECOWAS treaties to be domesticated.
Okay, so
if that would mean that the GIPC law would have to be amended, so be it.
But what you're suggesting will be against GUTA's position, which could propose problems. Because if you domesticate it, then the Nigerians cannot pay freely.
Well, that is the essence of the ECOWAS treaty.
But isn't that what GUTA is supposed to? But, how do you resolve the GUTA concern?
No, I think that
while domesticating
GUTA as a group, as a people, we should be. There are other ways of supporting GUTA to come up.
Because about competition.
Yes. There are several ways of going about the issue. For instance, we could talk about tax holidays, tax reliefs for Ghanaian traders, even after the domestication of the GIPC law. I mean, we could say, okay, let Ghanaian retail businesses enjoy some tax reliefs. Is it not a way of making them competitive? I mean, we could look at it, I mean, from that perspective. Rather than say we should throw our obligations under the ECOWAS treaty into the dustbin. When we do that, remember that, look, Ghana and Nigeria are the leading economies in the sub-region. We bastardize the whole concept of ECOWAS. Now we're talking about monetary union. Should that thing happen or not? Are we happy with the situation whereby our local currency from time to time it falls, it loses its value anyhow? Are we happy with that situation?
Let me bring in Justin. You agree with the suggestion? And he's not the only one who said it. In fact, the chairman of the Trade and Industry Committee was also on my show this week and said the same, that we need to, he believes the GIPC Act is the problem, and that needs to be reviewed. So at that leadership level, you're all thinking the same. Do you agree with that, though, that we need to domesticate the law and possibly scrap the GIPC Act?
There are certain laws that, by the nature of things, become unenforceable.
Okay.
You cannot enforce them. And I think GIPC law has reached that status where its enforceability, cannot be realized. You see, when you go to the international level and enter into an agreement, the obligation is that those agreements, you must respect them in good faith. So this issue of the Nigerians have a legitimate claim.
You have to forgive me. We need to fix your microphone. And so I'm going to go to Kweku, and then to allow the technical guys to address your microphone challenge. Kweku, this is something that I'm sure you've talked about many times, except that the current manifestation of it has become very violent. Ransacking with threats, etc., etc. How are you reading this?
Well, I was just taking a look at GUTA statement. It's dated 20th June 2019 on this matter. Press statement on the closure of foreigners shop in Kumasi, where they are declaring support for their counterparts in Kumasi, because according to them, some miscreant foreigners are the problem. And the significant point here is they said it will be recalled that about 20 years ago, members of the trading community, especially our union, raised a red flag about the activities of some foreigners in retail trade and called on the state authorities to sit up and effectively monitor and enforce the law governing retail trade in the country to avoid any future trouble for the country. But all the concerns were not heeded too. Interesting. They are talking 20 years ago, meaning that you go back to 1999. That is if you do the mathematics. Okay, very interesting. This is Ghana for you. I have this Hansard here. It is dated 12th May to 26th May 1970. It's a bond copy, you know, so all the proceedings. And going through it, I realized that on June 23rd, 1970, that's how many years ago? 49.
Tomorrow.
Years ago.
Exactly.
Parliament had an agenda on this matter like this. They were then debating before passage, the Ghanaian Business Promotion Act. That's what they were doing. And if you go through it, there was the point that they should restrict retail trade to Ghanaians. It's here. This is 49 years ago. Then earlier, July 1st, 1968, the NLC decree 232 had the same agenda. So in fact, it was incorporated into this because we had moved to constitutional era. So they had to do some constitutional re-engineering of that particular decree. That was 51 years ago. So 51 years ago, 49 years ago, 20 years ago, we are still grappling with the same matter. What's wrong with us?
I like that question.
What's wrong with us? Why are we incapable of sometimes curing certain very simple mischief? Why are we incapable? And this is a great nation, great minds, great people, great talents. So what's wrong with us? What is it that disables us or creates this perennial paralysis for us relative to things like this? And Kofi was referring to the aliens compliance order, I believe, and then the Ghana must go.
Yeah.
Yes, go. They brought $1 million. All those things came into play. So here you even have a question of also diplomacy in terms of the Nigerians. It's a mixture of politics, economics, and crime, because you've linked it to the kidnapping thing. And that's a significant thing in view of people taking advantage of a certain environment in order to perpetrate their own acts of illegality. James was talking about how to promote or enable Ghanaian businesses. It's all here. When they were doing this, they talked about tax holidays, tax reliefs, access to capital for the Ghanaian group so that they can empower them, for them to become a bit more competitive. You see, because we're not going to be able to build our nation in isolation. We're not going for an insular philosophy. We knew that we were within the West African sub-region, also within the continental framework, and based on Nkrumah's own vision, there was no way we were going to retreat. Ghana has never retreated from that vision, in spite of all the temporal, transient, things that other administrations did. We've been focused. Today we all know that you can build the Ghanaian economy to any level. If it doesn't have the appropriate market space, it still will not grow.
We need ECOWAS.
We need ECOWAS.
Absolutely.
And it's a huge market. So yes, times have changed, some new dynamics have come in, but the human capital that we have, I think still have the thinking faculty to be able to overcome the challenge. So I asked again, what is wrong with us? I will sit here and say I have the competence, the requisite competence to propose solutions. I think I can talk.
Let's talk. What do you think based on what you've read and know? What do you think? I'll come back to you. What do you think the solution should be?
It's relative to this Nigerian thing.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I don't know why we are talking only Nigerians, because there are also some non-Ghanaian West African nationals.
Chinese.
They're Chinese also as well.
That's a different angle. I'm told you are now in the evangelical business too.
Yes. Oh yes.
Teaching the gospel.
Oh yes. Yeah. There's a viral video on social media of a Chinese guy praying and calling for people to bring
diplomacy, law enforcement, a combination of diplomacy and law enforcement is required. Those out there seeking to play the role of citizen vigilantes. And I hear you said, because the state has failed. It's true to some extent. But I'm not sure we can sit here and recommend or commend them for those actions of constitutional lawlessness, if you like. I'm quoting Mr. Chachuchikata. Yes. You think you have the right to protest. Yes, you do. There are many ways. They could even go to court. Well, there are lawyers here, so you can educate me. They could go to court to enforce the laws that they think the state is not enforcing. Have they tried it? No. But you can't go out there, close shops yourself, bend ties, and create chaos. That's lawlessness. So that's not the law enforcement I'm talking about. I'm talking of the appropriate state regulatory bodies enforcing the law. Now, if we realize that this law is in conflict with the ECOWAS protocols, diplomacy must come in. Kofi made a point about the
bilateral arrangement.
Yes, for starters. At least, you look at the problem, you ask yourself the ultimate desirability. Then you check the possibilities, and you ask yourself what is immediately practicable. When you do what is immediately practicable, you are enhancing the possibilities to achieve the ultimate desirability. I was taught that as a student of Marxism. I was taught that at 3 levels. Immediately, what is immediately practicable, what are the possibilities, and what is the ultimate desirability. When you are doing what is immediately practicable, you are enhancing the possibilities to attain the ultimate desirability. So we are confronted with a challenge now. Let the 2 countries begin what Kofi was proposing. Smart thinking, for starters. But beyond that, let our legislatures, legislative bodies do the appropriate domestication. And then, thirdly, truly, our Ghanaian counterparts who are doing that business and feel a bit undermined by the other countries, because they may have more capital. They may buy those things at a certain level and come here and undercut. We can do the things, James. So everybody here has proposed something.
Yeah. But can we compete even with incentives if we introduce it? I think that's a bigger concern. That if we open this up and we domesticate it,
no, but don't forget, if you are talking of the market, if you are talking of the market, don't forget that there will be no barrier for our people also to go to those other markets.
But that has been one of their major concerns as well. That reciprocity isn't there. That when they go to try and do business elsewhere in the sub-region, they're not given the same access to their local markets.
There are a lot of Ghanaians doing business in Nigeria. I'm telling you. Some are family, some are friends. Let's not pretend we don't know the truth. There are a lot of Ghanaians doing business, and I know. And some of them bring goods and services here in conjunction with some of the Nigerians here and Ghanaians here. Let's just cool heads come to reflect and bear on this process and go step by step. Otherwise, we're going to have a situation of the Busia time and was it Babangida or so? I don't know who was in charge.
Shagari.
No. Shagari. Yes, Shagari.
Shagari.
And that was even seen as it was retaliatory.
It was.
Okay? So please, I think that we should just I'm not one of the experts who can give you solutions, but I feel it and I sense it.
Justice.
Yeah, Evans, like I was saying, the GIPC law stands no chance of survival. Not just because of ECOWAS, but there is even the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which is coming.
Exactly.
So it is time we, as a people, agree with the reality that that mentality of closing in and then looking small in the face of the world must go away. ECOWAS,
but this is retail trade we are talking about.
Yes.
This is not big business. This is retail trade.
You see, the ECOWAS treaty itself started since 1979. That's where the protocol we are dealing with. And it has 3 phases. Phase 1 is to ensure free movement of persons. Phase 2 is to ensure residence. And the phase 3, which is establishment of business. We have cleared phase 1. We have cleared phase 2, at least on paper. And now we are at phase 3, which is, and each of them is supposed to take 5 years. So within 15 years from 1979 to now, we should have cleared this. So we're actually behind schedule. And those who even brought these ideas were the military leaders of old.
Yeah.
So if even under military regimes, people were able to look that far to suggest this, it would be so disgraceful.
There's an inevitability about it?
I mean, we are not going anywhere with this GIPC law. And I think someone must be bold enough to step in and say that, look, let's repeal this law. But for me, the issue even goes beyond the GIPC law, because it appears, if you follow the trend, it appears was a justification for something else. Okay. The people started this and we cannot separate this issue from the cross-border crimes that we are facing.
It's a criminal.
We need to bring that
coming to. Let's go there because it's fundamental to this.
Exactly.
That's right. So the climate currently fed that.
Yeah. So you will see, and the fact that people are attacking only Nigerians, but it's not only Nigerians who are in business in Ghana. There are Togolese who are masons, taking more jobs than even Nigerians. There are other people from other camps, Senegalese.
The Togolese taking masons,
artisanship, and nobody's attacking them. So the issue has...
In fact, the Ghanaians even celebrate. I must admit. I mean, recently, after several years of running to trouble with Ghanaian masons, when I found a Togolese mason, I said, I'm not going. I'm sticking there. It's a confession, seriously. I mean, yeah, but you made a very good point.
So the issue is not really about this. For me, my honest belief that it's not about this ECOWAS business. It's just a justification afterthought, after they have done the thing and then they needed to justify. Because someone said in one of the videos that they came saying that we are kidnappers, we should go away.
Yes.
You know. So we need to go back to the cross-border, crime issue. Crime itself has so many dimensions. And I don't believe in the philosophy that if someone commits a crime, you should be interested in the person's nationality to be able to fight the crime. So I personally oppose these news items that said a Nigerian and 2 Ghanaians. The elements of a crime has nothing to do with nationality.
That's an area we'll interrogate by itself shortly. Because when we come to the Nigerian High Commission statement, that's what we interrogate. This is the media demonizing them. We'll see whether he's right in saying that. But by good point you made, we'll interrogate that shortly.
Yeah, so going forward, I think that on this trade issue, which we need to conclude, we don't need to belabor the point. Government is not enforcing it because government cannot enforce it. We are becoming more and more integrated. Look, sometimes we pretend this is something new. We have issues of people crossing to vote in Togo and coming to Ghana. And then that is legitimate because naturally we are one people. So what we are actually doing is to reset ourselves to the previous situation where a person can move all the way from Ivory Coast to Nigeria without having by following probably tribal connections and be able to do trade and business. So naturally we are people who receive people. We were able to receive people from Europe, Europeans, to come and trade with us, live with us to the extent that they even colonize us. Why are we pretending that we cannot accept our friends, our relatives from the other side of the border? So, but the solution to this, Evans, you see, when the Europeans started the European Union, they knew this problem. What did they do? They revamped awareness creation, as in education. If you go and you study in Europe, you will always have something to do with some EU. Before you come back, you will know something about EU. Ghana, in our law schools, law faculties, who cares about ECOWAS, whatnot? African Union, nobody cares about it. And so everything is just Ghana. So we end up producing even intellectuals who are not aware. We know everything about European Union, we know everything about the United States, we know everything about all the other unions that we have, but zero on ECOWAS. So the mentality is still that we are Ghanaians, the Nigerians are not Ghanaians, Togolese are not Ghanaians. So until we face that fact and invest in that aspect of education, we will not get anywhere. So somebody should, are we saying that there's nobody in Kumasi to look straight into the eyes of these guys and tell them that, look, what you are doing is lawless? People are there. But the point is, the generality of the people still don't believe that a Nigerian is entitled to be in Ghana. A Ghanaian is entitled to be in Nigeria. The same people who are chasing Nigerians are working happily with Chinese, working happily with other European people.
It's true. But you make a very important point, and that's what I'm bringing in because you are the chair of the Defense and Interior Committee, about the crime element of this. Yes. He makes a point, and yesterday I was seeing the GUTA president, he makes the same point, that there are other foreigners doing business in the retail. Why are we only concerned about Nigerians? That was the GUTA president's retort. But if you answer that question, he points to the recent climate. This week has happened on the back of the Canadian girls, on the back of the Indian guy who was kidnapped in Kumasi. All happened in Kumasi, by the way, and the others. isn't that one of the elements that has to be dealt with as well? And that's where the fears started growing. I listened to the press conference that your colleague, Kujita Blakwa, and on the Interior Committee. And their press came before the attacks. But their fear was the reporting that is going on, people's perception. This started playing out on social media. Then all Nigerians, we sort of banded all together and branding them a certain tag because of the kidnappings and the armed robberies that has happened. Isn't that one of the fundamental things we need to address first? Because I think Sukuku mentioned, people are using that as an excuse to perpetrate pure crime in these markets.
Evans, you are right. But we have to
There's a law enforcement
remind ourselves that only a tiny fraction of Nigerians resident in Ghana commit crimes. And this is supported by available crime statistics. But Evans, this issue about stereotyping Nigerians is getting out of proportion.
Okay.
And I would not mince words. The media is partly to blame for this unfortunate phenomenon.
Explain.
Look, there's a lot of sensationalism when it comes to reporting on the commission of crimes. We tend to place a lot of emphasis. My brother Said made the point on the nationalities of suspects whenever they are apprehended. and yet, I mean, the nationality of an individual, he made the point, and I agree with him. It's not an ingredient in establishing, you know, any crime before
that is law.
before
the other one is
courts.
journalism.
So, Evans, but that is part of the problem. And so, why do we tend to place so much emphasis? And 3 Nigerians took part in an armed robbery in Tema with their Ghanaian accomplices. Why is that necessary? Look, when an individual commits crime, you commit the crime not because of your nationality, but because you are an individual who is a criminal, I mean, you have some criminal orientation, and that is why you commit the crime. That should be it. Okay. But the emphasis on a Nigerian has done this, and a Nigerian has done that. I'm sure that was what provoked the press statement by the Nigerian High Commission.
I'm surprised you blame the media. When the police issued a statement, when after they made arrest, they put in there the nationalities of the individuals. Let's use recent cases. Canadian, they arrested 8 people. They said 3 Nigerians, 5 Ghanaians. In fact, there was one press conference where they used the Nigerians combed Ghana looking to recruit Ghanaians. And, in fact, and it was said that the Nigerians led and coordinated. They were the leaders of the thing. So we are saying that I pick a press statement. Your Brian Champon then comes and adds the other element of the role the Nigerians been leading and recruiting Ghanaians. It means that some of the Ghanaians in Ashaman and Co. refused.
Yes.
We are saying if I'm reporting, I'll report what the police says. The police is the only institution I can quote.
Yes, Evan, so even the police must be circumspect with the kind of information they put out there in relation to crime statistics and crime analysis. So when the crime is committed, Evans, I mean, you want to relate to, say, the number of robberies committed in a given month. What do you achieve by putting out there the number of Ghanaians involved versus the number of Nigerians or Nigerians? What do you achieve? And yet we operate within a certain international legal framework which allows for collaboration. So if you identify some Nigerians and it is the case that they have crossed borders, use Interpol and track them. Why must you necessarily put out the information in the public domain that 3 Nigerians were responsible for A, B, C, D? They are the ones who recruited the Ghanaians. And when all these things are said, Evans, you remember that they are usually not facts that are established or proven. So for instance, in respect of the kidnapping of the 2 Canadian girls in Kumasi, I have heard people say that it was the Nigerians who recruited the Ghanaians and trained them.
Not people say.
Evans, but are these... No, but Brian Champong's views
He is government.
No, but remember that this is a matter that is before the courts. And so whether or not the Nigerians are the ones who recruited the Ghanaians must be established.
And the fact that Brian said it doesn't make it right.
Doesn't make it right.
I think we need to.
Anyway, I think
we need to be careful here. I think that I made the point that if you look at the statistics, only a tiny fraction of Nigerians engage in the commission of crime.
Look, that distinction or that admonishment is necessary. But I think it's important for you to understand, it's not just law we live on. There is law, there is sociology, all right? And there's journalism, like you said. And it matters what the officials say. So I agree with Evans that much as we should, I like the advice. Let's stop trying to stereotype people. But the advice should go to those who give the information. My golden rule of journalism is that journalists don't create the news, they report it. Yeah. So if you have put it out and you are in the national security system, you are a government official, that's official information. So we must be careful at the official level how we characterize these things. In a courtroom, it's a different matter. But socially, journalistically, all right, and even politically, somebody may be seeking, to, draw a certain political line about, certain things. So we should not dwell too much on it. The substantive issue is clear. We have a problem. Now, the security problem is feeding into the xenophobia. True. Xenophobia is a function of insecurity, whether economic or otherwise. So this traders thing, I think, is because Ghanaians are having a difficult time competing. And now we are using these as excuses. Let's deal with the issue itself. I've suggested reciprocity. Okay, let's deal with the security issues too, by themselves. But what should be established here is one, who should do it? It's the politicians. So we can be clear. It's the executive and parliament. We should deal with this thing. It's a matter of law, but ultimately it's a matter of politics. Yep. And yes, I agree we should educate our people and try and deal with it. I agree also that we should get this in our mind. We cannot go back on regional integration, even a continental level integration. It is in our interest, and we must get up and compete. This thing you talk about Masons and the Togolese taking over, that kind of thing. It's a major issue, but you know the real issue? The real issue is this. Our Ghanaian artisans are not competing. They are not doing a good job. They don't spend enough time on a thing. The quality of their work is not that good. Poor. And the difference is clear. That is what we need to deal with. Because look, people will come from, we also go everywhere else and go and compete with people in the US and Germany and other places. So we will not pull back. Ghana is not, going to make it big by closing our doors. We are better off opening up, even at the continental level. Morocco wanted to join ECOWAS recently. We did analysis. It was in our interest. It was absolutely in our interest as ECOWAS to bring Morocco in. But you know something? I've been to Morocco. I've seen what they are doing there. They will outcompete us in certain areas. Do you think it's bad? It's bad for our people who can't compete. But Evans, if you're going to buy something and a better quality product is coming from Morocco at a lesser price, it's in your interest to buy that. So it makes us better off, and competition everywhere forces you to step up to the plate and be better than you used to be.
Yeah, you make a point. The GUTA says, however, in the Nigerian case, that the products that they sell, particularly in spare parts, one, are inferior, and two, is of less cost.
I think it's a lame excuse.
Let the buyer decide.
Let the buyer decide. Yeah. I mean, I heard that myself. And look, I'm a marketing person, okay, I'm a strategy person. That is equal to saying clients, customers are stupid. You should never say that. If these things are inferior, people won't be buying them. You buy it once, it breaks, you won't buy again. So that's an excuse that should be just jettisoned and forgotten about. We should set up, rise up, and compete.
But it even depends on your pocket, how much money you want to spend.
They say we are fueling the xenophobic attacks. In fact, the Nigerian High Commission statement said that we are demonizing Nigerians by creating this false impression that they are all. We should stop publishing their names.
So you made a very interesting point, and I was looking for my document. I couldn't find it readily about the police statement. Yes, and the one I was looking for was the police statement on the Kwabena raid. Yeah. Remember there was a raid which a police officer died. the police gave out a list of people who they had arrested, and they listed nationality as well. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, identification by nationality itself. So especially with the media or even with the police, in my candid opinion, that's a correct premise. It is when you proceed from there to demonize or criminalize a whole people, then you have a problem. That's where the distortion comes from. But identifying them by their nationality in itself, for me, is not a problem, to be honest with you. But if you move on to suggest that this is particular crime is peculiar to these nationals from this country, or without any statistical basis, suggest that indeed they are predominantly involved in that, that's a problem, because you cannot give us the facts and things. So I don't have a problem with the identification by nationality and with the media doing it, you know. And it's true that some of our Nigerian brothers and sisters are involved in some criminal activities here, just like some of our own counterparts are there doing same in Nigeria, let's be honest, you know. But to be honest, the ambassador, I really didn't see much wrong with what the ambassador was saying. And I've said this, last Wednesday I said that on Kwame's program. Didn't he indicate that their nationals are subject to our laws here, and that if they committed any criminal transgressions, they ought to be dealt with according to law?
Yeah, he did.
Yes. So what was wrong with that particular press release? It is obvious out there, you just told us, that those who were shutting some of the shops down said, oh, because they are kidnappers. But that's wrong. Many of those who own those shops, for all you know, are very decent people.
And they've been there for years.
And they've been there for years. So, some of them have become, you know, integrated. You know, and Kofi is correct. We can't close up like the Chinese did and the Chairman Mao. You know, they had the space, they had the landscape, they had the human capital, everything. They closed up the Cultural Revolution, if you remember. 10 years, 66 to 76. Beyond that, they opened up. I don't know if you noticed that. They opened up even for capitalist industrial elements to come in. They selected some areas, Shanghai and all the rest, and allowed free flow of capital. They are big enough to do that. Ghana, it is the whole Africa that is our optimal zone of development, and not Ghana. And that's what Nkrumah was pushing. No? So
you have a final point on this?
Yeah, on the issue whether nationality. I think the question is, what purpose does it serve, whether it is being done by the police or by the journalist? What legitimate purpose does it serve
to add the nationality?
To add the nationality.
Stella, just a one. This is a rude intervention. When people are busted for criminal activities, our politicians, they go looking for their party affiliations.
That's a good one.
They look for their party perceived or real affiliation.
It's true.
Why do you do that?
You have to answer that question, by the way.
I'm sorry.
You have to answer that question.
So, what you have been...
It's okay. Go on. The man is struggling to answer. It's okay, go on.
Once we have not been able to agree or that there is a legitimate purpose for that, I think all of us should work at. You see, you can take statistics and use it for other purposes, but the one that set people up to be tagged as kidnappers. As rapists, doesn't solve it. You can still fight that crime without that nationality being put out.
Very quick one on the Nigerian thing, then we can move on to the other thing. About the arrest of this Nigerian professor in Wabara, who the police issued a statement, said Professor Ogasening Zowen Wagwara today, June 18, reported to the police upon an invitation extended to him by the CID. Professor, I'm reading from a statement signed by Julian Obeng, who is the superintendent of the police at the public affairs. It says a professor has been arrested and cautioned on the offense of offensive conduct conducive to the breach of peace. Professor Augustine Wagwara has been admitted to bail. And it ends by saying the CID uses the opportunity to call on Ghanaians to remain calm and continue to enjoy the relationship between the two countries as it continues with investigations. Now, what happened? It's simple. this professor was seen in the video, which has gone viral. I don't know if you've all seen it. In which he said a few things. One, that Nigerians should use their own media to fight this xenophobic perception of them as criminals, and that they should get their media guys here and record what's happening to Nigerians and blast it all over the world, and so that we can fight it and win. Secondly, he then attacks our universities as being inferior to theirs, 80% inferior. And then he claims that Nigerians fund our universities. The majority of the funds that we use come from Nigeria. And then he's arrested. The university he works for on sabbatical, the University of Education, whenever, sacks him. The University of Ghana, where he worked for in the past, between 2011 and 12, also issues a statement disowning him. Was this a justified reaction from the police, from the University of Ghana, from EUW?
Well, Evans, let me begin with the police.
Yeah.
Because the police have been on a particular trend for some time now, which I find very, very unlawful. You see, there is a difference between having evidence and...
Oh, another thing that I forgot to say, he also says that, and I like Oku's point on this, that Azikiwe is the guy who funded Nkrumah's education.
That was a fallacy.
Go on.
Yeah. So, there is a difference between having evidence and arresting someone who you link with that evidence with the purpose of prosecuting the person. That is on one side. And there's a situation where in the process of investigation, you invite someone or you want information from someone. You do not arrest people when all you want is to get information from them. Because a person has the right to speak or not to speak. And arresting him amounts to forcing him to speak. So if you go to the person, this is what we are investigating. We can't find, we need your comment. And the person says, well, this is what I have, and he gives it to you. Fine. Even that evidence is clean because then the person gave it voluntarily. But if you arrest the person and the person gives you that information under duress, then there is a problem with even the information you have. Now, I don't think the police have been using their powers of arrest in the proper manner, to be honest. There was no need to arrest this professor. That is not to say that the police don't have a duty to investigate the matter. They may investigate the matter, they may go to him, they may ask questions, but there was absolutely no need to arrest this person. Why? What was he saying? Most of the things he said don't even make sense. Let's face it. If you tell me that Ghanaian education is about 80% worse than Nigerian standard of education, I mean, how do you take it seriously and work? How do you even work with such information? So we are just making
a month out of more.
Yeah, I mean, this is something, and it all goes back to the same issue because it's Nigerian. It was a Ghanaian standing somewhere making this. No policeman would even, I mean, let's face it, we all see some of these things. And particularly, you see, it wasn't something that it's not as if he called people and was giving a speech to the public. So even the offense of conduct amounting to, this was a leaked,
offensive conduct,
a secretly recorded tape which leaked and is being, on the internet. It's good to investigate, but to arrest and charge the person based on how are you going to, what has he done? Yeah. And to take into consideration the fact that this is a professor who probably is exercising his, academic freedom. And that is the thing. And I like the University of Ghana press statement because they said, look, he has said this, some of them don't make sense. We dispute it ourselves.
Yeah.
That is
but
sufficient.
They disputed his claim.
Yeah, they disputed the claim. That is sufficiently, it has dealt with the issue. Then the police, they arrested him, cautioned him on a charge, and then granted him bail. I don't know where it will lead to, but have you realized that most of these kind of arrests,
they don't end up.
They don't end up anywhere. That means that there's no honesty,
quick one on this.
Good faith in
He's been sacked by University of Education whenever.
So I have a certain view to things. One, I don't think it's academic freedom. And let's make the distinction because we are academics. He could be in a lecture room and give a lecture and talk about how Nigerian media should counter the negative impression people have of Nigeria.
That would be a very good lecture.
In Ghana and everywhere.
Yeah.
There will be absolutely no problem. I would defend him if he did that. In the same lecture, he can talk about how he believes Nigerian universities are superior to Ghanaian universities. I would defend him on that. If he says Azikiwe funded Kwame Nkrumah, I will go to Kweku Baako and ask for the history. And if I get counter history, because those are facts, I would counter him on that. But opinions expressed in a certain atmosphere come under academic freedom. This doesn't qualify because he was in what he thought was a private meeting. And he was talking to a certain audience. Okay? So as far as I'm concerned, he wasn't expressing a certain academic position, whether we like it or not. So for me, I would take out academic freedom. The next thing, he is our guest. Now, if you insult your landlord, he will sack you from the house. So as far as I'm concerned, the universities dismissing him have a right to do so, because if you have such a low view of the place where you work, I doubt what passion you bring to your work. It's my view. Then on the police, I think it was an emotional reaction. It will go nowhere. It is not everything you have to use the power of arrest to deal with. I agree with Justice on that one. So I've dealt with it 3 different ways. The police, please focus on the armed robbers and serious crime. Okay. The universities, I agree. If this guy doesn't respect you, why are you employing him? But on academic freedom, no. This was a private meeting.
Quickly, James, on this.
Well, Evans,
is the charge appropriate?
No. I agree with my colleagues that the police have been overzealous so far as this matter is concerned. But just look at the content of the video. What is criminal about what the professor said? He may have denigrated Ghana in a way, right, when he tries to create the impression that Kwame Nkrumah was sent to
Azikiwe small boy.
Is it Pennsylvania University by Nnamdi Azikiwe, and that Ghana is actually the younger brother of Nigeria and all. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Beyond that, bringing in Nigerian journalists to blow up issues, to expose xenophobic tendencies. How is that criminal? So the police have been overzealous. I agree with Benter that they should concentrate on more serious issues. Beyond that, this matter should be handled with a lot of tact and diplomacy.
That's also because of the atmosphere.
The professor has been dismissed by University of Education. I think the matter should end there.
Need I ask more?
I think we need quick.
Let me use your 1 minute to just say this. You see, again, and we are saying our police use our resources a bit more. If they had even checked the law, okay, Act 29, Section 207, offensive conduct conducive to the breaches of peace, say any person who in a public place or at any public meeting uses threats, abusive, insulting words. There are ingredients there. A check would have said, this is a private meeting.
Yeah, okay.
We spare ourselves.
So live on Newsfile, it's on Joy 99.7 FM, also on the JoyNews channel on Multi TV. We're going to take a short, but when we return, we'll go to the tariffs. It went up just yesterday by 11%. The minority say they will resist it. They will use every legitimate means to fight this because it's just not right.